Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe. It is, I almost said I'm your regular Wednesday evening host, but that would not be true because this isn't a Body Bags review. This is my own channel, so leave that in. It is episode 24 of my continuing a closer look into the X-Files season 2, episode 24. And you know what that means? We are on the precipice of a season 2 finale, Anasazi. And so that will be coming up the next. In fact, it's early enough today, I may just go ahead and get myself a watch of it and go ahead and knock out that review perhaps today. I may just do that. But this one is episode 24, Our Town. With Anasazi actually gets mentioned in this as a interesting side note. May 12th, 1995, it drops, directed by Rob Bowman. Frank Spotnitz is the writer in this. Of course, he'll go on to be quite a contributing producer on this series. Trying to think, in terms of the guest appearances, nobody stood out, in light of like who I'm used to as far as what they're in this one kind of thing. But a very solid cast, no doubt. Gary Grubbs is a sheriff, just fantastic. I'm trying to just look at my notes here. Yes, John Milford as Chaco. Walter Chaco is a standout here. Robin Mossley as Dr. Vance. I can't think of his last name. His character. He's pretty good too. Him and I can't remember his name, man. The guy in charge of Chaco chicken plant is also there is a multitude of antagonists. It really is an entire town. A federal food inspector goes missing, and so this sort of washes up on Mulder's desk and sees some intriguing possibility in terms of why him and Scully ought to go down and take a look into this affair, and it will be an unforgettable affair as we lead into the season finale, final episode of season 2. Another episode where Scully almost becomes let's just say she is put into jeopardy very severely towards the end of this, which I would say, it doesn't really rise to the level of one or two other episodes in terms of her reaction to what she just went through. I was just thinking, was it Orison? That ending of that one where she was just visibly so shooken up. You don't really get that at this one for some reason. But anyway, so this federal worker who is going to, apparently he has filed reports. He's looking to have this plant closed as a result of violations, federal violations in terms of how they do things. And so he turns up missing. And you slowly but surely begin to learn that there is a far wide-ranging conspiracy. There's a reason why this is entitled Our Town. And I'll say this. I was going to save this line for the end, but it's there on my mind. And it does go to say, and don't get quite the wrong impression here, but it's funny. Walter Chaco, who is the founder of Chaco Chicken, this chicken processing plant. Is it Doubly? I think it is Doubly Town, Dunley or Doubly. It's one or the other. Forgot to write it down. But he forgot the old refrain of revolutions tend to eat their own children. And so let's just say it's kind of ironic the end that has in store for him in light of his so-called own self-perceived good intentions. We really come back on him in an ugly way, very ugly way. And as a result, Mulder and Dana Scully almost get caught up as collateral damage. So so investigating this guy, while they're there at the plant, now I'm going to say there's like 3 key characters that all in their own way work as absolutely fabulous antagonists. Of course, Walter Chaco, and his backdrop story is so intriguing. World War II, plane shot down over New Guinea, ends up spending, let's just say a little bit of too much time with the local cannibal tribe. And let's just say sort of takes on some of their cannibalistic rituals, and decides to introduce these things to his town as he builds this chicken plant up from the ground up. And the town becomes somewhat built on this really weird ritualistic cannibal sort of like idea that they will somehow in a weird way increase longevity of their own town, but of themselves physically. But what happens as a result, there's an outsider. I do believe the culprit is the food inspection guy, who ultimately is the fly in the ointment. He has a rare disease, and as a result of them taking him out and him being, well, it's sort of never really explained. I mean, you sort of get the idea that these people are there's cannibalism going on, but a lot of weird things are happening at the plant in terms of what happens to these bodies, in terms of their own processing over the years, over the last 50, 60 years or whatever. A lot of weird stuff is going on, and it's with the intention of preservation, long-term preservation. You find out that the granddaughter, or I think presumably it's his daughter, Chico's daughter, who we actually see in the opening moments of the episode, who lures the federal worker or the federal inspector. He has a habit of cheating on his wife all the time, and so he's easy to lure out into the woods. And what he doesn't realize, and on this one particular occasion, he is going to fall victim to this town-wide conspiracy, and it's acting on its own preservation, feels the need to take this guy out, even though he's sort of his own worst enemy. You kind of learn as you get into the episode, in terms of he's not real good at what he longs to do, and that is his intention is to bring this plant down. I think he starts to probably pick up on some nefarious activities going on enough that something needs to be done, but he unfortunately hangs around too long to become part of the collateral damage of this town. And so, of course, Mulder and Scully come into it, and as they start to piece things together, the girl who lures him out there, she snaps as a result of this degenerative brain disease that is passed on as a result of the bodies getting to the chicken feed, into the chickens, and them eating the chickens, and probably more than that. And it's a very quick setting in degenerative brain disease. She ultimately has a breakdown right there on the factory floor, in which case the sheriff ends up shooting her. Now they're there, Mulder and Scully are there talking to the manager of the plant, who in his own way ends up becoming somewhat diabolical by the end. There's one other character that is, let's just say this, I'm not going to give this away, but let's just say you get to the end, there's multiple reveals going on in terms of varying characters and their roles that they are playing in this conspiracy. One in particular, when it's unveiled, it makes going back rewatching again much more enjoyable, because it puts certain scenes into a different light. And anyone very familiar with this episode hopefully will pick up what I'm alluding to, but certain scenes become very much more intimidating in a very subtle, creepy way. This is one of those where ultimately in your finale and wrap up, amidst all the reveals, it makes going back rewatching that much more enjoyable, because it just casts certain scenes as they unfold in a much more sinister light, I guess. And so, Walter Chaco's story is really interesting. And when Mulder unfortunately, him and Scully will split up, as what they do sometimes, and he goes to Chaco's house to arrest him. That's where he ultimately finds out Chaco's history, or at least that he is sort of the head of the serpent, I guess. But little does Mulder know that, as I said at the beginning of this review, revolutions do tend to eat their own children, and so something is afoot in a way that is going to overwhelm Mr. Chaco, which makes ultimately Walter Chaco. This makes this episode really good. Some of the characters that ultimately get revealed as extra special antagonists, you notice certain scenes where the camera and the way the camera is pointed up at, say, two characters in the room, one may be the antagonist and the other may be another antagonist, an up-and-coming antagonist, but that character looms over the other one, which it really should be very reverse. But it sort of foreshadows certain things that are afoot and coming down the pike. Again, it just makes us. This is a great scene when Mulder and Scully are on the road and they're about to pass the drainage dump site of where everything from the plant gets dumped into this river. And they just happen to be passing at the perfect time, because a truck carrying chickens, this guy who's driving the truck is the third in a line of, which I think ultimately 27 people get this disease, this degenerative brain disease. I can't say, I remember what it's called, but I'm not going to try to say it. It's weird. It's a weird name. But anyways, he has sort of an aneurysm or something, a seizure of some sort, something snaps. And so the truck goes out of control, almost hits Mulder and Scully, and it goes off into the mouth of the drainage area, which sort of is providentially is a means of allowing things to unfold in a much more rapid way. And so when Mulder demands that this drainage area gets netted up, cleaned up to see what's at the bottom, assuming that the federal inspector is down there at the bottom, they're in store for something much worse. And that's all I'll say. When it all gets netted up, it is quite gruesome. And it just sort of, it's one of those where once you really, the overarching story sort of settles in your mind and you sort of get a big picture view of what's going on. It's one of those that we start really thinking how creepy this story really is. It's an interesting story for sure. It's a great second to last episode. And when dealing with cannibalism and the nature of it, and the Anasazi, I think, of New Mexico get mentioned, Mulder mentions it. And this, of course, is a minor subtle or not so subtle foreshadowing to the final episode of season 2, which is the next in line. So, great performances overall. A great conclusion to the story. And some creepy moments. Some great cinematography in terms of isolating certain characters, seeing certain things as they unfold. The vulnerability of Scully. Although, as I said, the aftermath of her vulnerability, it just doesn't come through. And now it could be that she was just more or less in shock. It is a pretty horrifying moment, which almost befalls her. And so, I mean, you could kind of play it off as just shock. And that would explain the lack of some of the emotion you got when she really got shook up, say, at the hands of Orson, right? Or Donnie, yeah, the episode is Orson, but Donnie, that the fetish serial killer fetish who got into the dead people and all that. She got really shook up in that one. That's the one where if you really invest in these characters, even after all of these years, it still works on you in a way that there are moments I'll still feel the need to tear up a little bit. Because I mean, I know nothing's going to happen in the end, but they do such a great job at putting these characters into peril over and over and over. And sometimes it's more effective than other times, but those times that still work and its effectiveness work in such a way that it never really gets old. I'm sure when we get there, if I don't revisit it beforehand, the season 5 finale, that always works on me emotionally. The very end of that episode, the closing scene, the shot of that episode always works on me. I think after 5 seasons of just being invested, you getting to the point when how that episode in particular ends, it's very emotionally draining. But that's part of film. That's part of getting invested in things, is allow yourself to be affected emotionally. It's easy just to laugh off things or laugh at things. It's quite another to allow the piece of art to work on you and allow you to be emotionally impacted, affected. Kind of why we watch, isn't it? Kind of why we love cinema, even in its own television, viewing, or how it's laid out on the television screen, on the small screen versus the big screen, or on the stage for that matter. So anyways, yeah. So I think that's all I want to. Yeah, that's all I want to say. Great episode. If you haven't seen it, check it out. If you've never seen it, definitely check it out. And then get ready, man. Season 2 finale, Anasazi, coming your way. As always, we end these things off with Go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to